Okay. And then we'll go forward. Okay. So this is Lunch and Learn with Linda Brubaker. It's Job Search Lunch and Learn group. And what we're going to be talking about today is trick or treat Halloween style and job search style. The mashup between what we're seeing in terms of general terms, trick or treat, as well as what's going on in the job search world. We are small enough, at least at the moment, that what I'd like to do is ask a couple of you, if you're comfortable, just to introduce yourselves. I don't want to take up the whole time with everybody introducing themselves unless you can truly do a quick 30-second commercial. Okay. But if there are a couple of you who would like to introduce yourself, we can do that. Otherwise, what we're going to do is as you ask your question, you can do your introduction at that point. But remember to put your LinkedIn URL in the chat along with a little bit about what you want to talk about. Okay. A lot to cover this morning, and I want to get started. Any questions before we start? All right. So, Susan, you made use of the private chat last week. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to. Thanks. Hi, everybody. So last week I shared how I had a phone screen right after this meeting or later in the afternoon. I don't remember exactly when. And I was a little confused because to me, a phone screen has always been, are you a real person? And I wasn't sure what to expect because the person I would be talking to is actually the hiring manager for the job. So I had the call and the questions were not what I was expecting. The one that of course I was expecting, because we happened to talk about it, is why are you interested in this job and why now? And so that was rather timely because we spoke about that in this session last week. And then the other questions had to do with my not understanding, but my approach to modernizing technology, training new people, and I don't remember the last one. And after the call, I posted in our group chat because I felt there people might be, somewhat vested in learning how it all came out. And then I was asking for others' experience and response to, I'm going to send a thank you note, obviously. Should I go back and address some of these issues more concisely? I felt rather scattered in my responses. I do believe I said all the right words and what she wanted to hear, but I wondered if in my thank you, just kind of reiterating and consolidating what I said in a more comprehensive manner would be a good course of action. And thankfully, Linda was nice enough to respond to that. So that's how I utilize that private chat area for us.
And we can easily do that. And thank you very much for doing that, by the way, Susan, is the idea that because it's a private chat, it's another way of doing the brainstorming and supporting one another, asking questions that you didn't ask here, that you want to be reminded to bring up in the next session, or to get some additional feedback and support from people asking the questions as we're moving forward. Okay, so it's a great way of doing that kind of private networking and asking the questions in that group too. By the way, did you hear from them again, Susan?
I have not, but I wasn't expecting to. And she said midweek this week. So maybe while we're here.
And honestly, midweek, here's one of the myths of job search, or one of the job search tricks and treats, is that when somebody says you're going to hear midweek or you're going to hear at the end of the week, build in another week. Okay, before you start to get concerned. And sometimes even more than that. Those dates that they say, here's when we're going to get back to you, that's aspirational. It is not necessarily their actual plan. They're hoping to be able to do it. But knowing how things come up, among other things, they're giving you a date more because you're asking for it rather than this is their commitment. Sorry.
Can I ask a question, or is this not
Absolutely.
the proper format or chance? In those cases, is it okay if there's some time to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm really interested, I haven't heard from you, like something like that?
So the answer is yes and no. Okay. And I do that a lot. Sorry about that, David.
That's okay. No, that's fine. I'm sure there's clarifiers.
Okay, there are. So here's the clarification is think about how you would feel on the other side of that message. If I'm telling you that here's my aspirational date, I still may not have one for you. So I may or may not get back to you. So the idea is don't get back to them because they said you were going to get back to you by midweek. Don't get back to them Wednesday afternoon and say, I haven't heard yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you really want to, you can wait until Monday of the following week. And I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to next steps.
Okay.
Looking forward to hearing from you again. Not, I haven't heard from you. What's going on?
Thank you.
Okay. The other thing is that if you want to, you can use that follow-up as another way of emphasizing one thing, one short sentence about why it's a great fit, what you're excited about. Okay. So you were talking about why are you a great fit? Why this company? You saw something new in the news about them. You saw something that you wanted to do. It shouldn't just be about you. It should also be about them and the relationship.
Mhm.
Taylor. No. Okay. By the way, when we're on this Brady Bunch screen, what happens is that on my screen, if you unmute, then your box lights up, which suggests to me that you're ready to make a comment. Now that we're getting a little bigger, if we go to a second screen, I'm going to ask you instead of just calling out to raise your hand so that we can go there. But at the moment, we're still all in one screen so I can see you all. Okay. All right. One more thing is that when you do start and you ask a question, and I love the fact that you're willing to ask the questions, please introduce yourself first. Okay. So that we know a little bit about you. It's going to be kind of our networking as well. 30 seconds, no more. Here's who I am. Here's what I'm doing. Here's my question. Okay. If it's your first time today. Great. Thank you. Okay. So let's talk job search tricks and treats. Well, the very first thing that I want to talk about, and the way we're going to do this is I'm going to talk a little bit and then we're going to open it up for questions in that segment and then move forward. But there are lots of tricks and treats out there. And one of the things that I said that I would do would be to share my cracked crystal ball. And for those of you who've done some of these before, one of the things that I do on occasion is I'd like to update you a little bit on what I see happening in the job market right now and some information that I want to share. I wish I could tell you that I thought the job market was great right now. I don't. In spite of what we're hearing, I'm starting to see more layoffs again, and they're across the board. It's not just one industry or one field. So I'm starting to see those grow again. That isn't necessarily unusual toward the end of the year when companies start doing some of their right sizing. But I'm seeing them in larger numbers than in a pre-pandemic year. What that means is people are still trying to figure it out. I'm also starting to see more jobs opening again. So it's that pull and push, not really sure where it's going to be. But I do want you to be aware of the fact that some of those things are beginning to happen. Yes, Michelle.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Michelle Taldalori for those who are new here. I wanted to ask, are you seeing one way or the other in a specific industry?
You know, that's a great question, Michelle. And right now, I was hoping honestly that I would,
Mhm.
but I'm not. I'm seeing it in many industries across the board. The ones that I'm seeing that are not as high would be those that I'm not seeing a whole lot of layoffs in the hospitality industry. I'm not seeing layoffs in the educational industry with a caveat. I'm not seeing it from the public school, the K through 12. I am, however, seeing it at the college and junior college levels. Sorry, Al. Okay, but I've started to see more of those as well. Okay. I'm starting to see some college campuses actually closing in addition. So we've got that going
Sad to
on.
hear.
I'm sorry?
I said that's sad to hear.
It is very sad to hear. But the couple of colleges that I'm seeing are closing because the students have decided they want online rather than in person. So it's not as though they are going away, they are reevaluating what they do and how they do.
Mhm.
Okay.
I
And
mean, that makes sense.
It
The
does.
pandemic definitely stirred that. So.
It does. I think that it has always been there. I think the pandemic gave people the option of taking those classes that they didn't have before. They decided they liked it and they wanted to move forward.
Especially what's going on in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's a lot of that going on. Now, the other thing that I'm seeing in terms of the job market that's out there, one, I'm going to wait for a second in terms of the tricks and treats, but the other is that I am seeing more of this push and pull between hybrid, remote, and in person. You will see a lot in the news about everybody having to come back to the office. But there's some very significant things you need to know about. One company actually tried to fire an employee who refused to come back. It went to court. The company was told, can't do that. If the employee was hired on that remote basis or had been working on that remote basis, even if that was not the way that it was going on before, and the employee was doing satisfactory work, you cannot fire them for refusing to come into the office. And that's significant. So far, that's only one decision. My gut tells me it will be appealed. But it was both a court decision as well as a National Labor Relations Board opinion. So that's important. The other thing that you should know is that, again, while companies are saying we want everybody back, people are still routinely getting hired for those remote and hybrid jobs. Don't let that hype scare you away. Those jobs are absolutely still out there. And the prediction from the talent industry, the prediction from all of the HR kinds of people, as well as some of the labor people that I'm talking with, is that companies are going to, I don't want to say relent, but understand that fully in person for a variety of jobs doesn't make sense any longer. And one way that you can see that is by looking at the commercial real estate market. Commercial real estate market for office space, hurting. Because companies have figured out that they really don't need to be in person all the time, and so may not need all that space. So it's a market that's in flux, but don't believe the hype that says those jobs are going away. Yes, Jackie.
Just getting back to what you were just describing about the lawsuit. I'm curious to know though, and this is so unrelated, but it popped into my head. If you're taking your employer and suing them, wouldn't that just also create now this new hostile environment, and that they might find it, like, I'm just thinking it's like, I know it's to prove a precedent, but like, it just doesn't sound good all around either.
And I understand, and I agree with you. It is, if you're that concerned about it, if you really want to stick up for yourself, absolutely go ahead and do it. But yes, it does raise some of those issues. But think about what he's doing for everybody else.
Oh no, I agree. That's what I was saying, set precedent. But then it's also, I actually worked for a company a long time ago where they sold and they couldn't find a reason. I know I was getting overpaid for my position, and they found like the lamest reason to lay me off. And I know it was the money, but they couldn't say that. And it's just, that popped in my head too. They'll find something else then once it pops up, getcha.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that could absolutely happen. Okay. All right. other questions about what I'm seeing in the labor market. And every once in a while, I will continue to do these as I keep sharing. One of the people that I do some networking with is actually a friend who works for the Federal Reserve as a labor economist. So I listen to him a lot in terms of what some of those market areas should be. Now, he can't publicly come out and say, hey, I'm telling you that, Linda, I'm not publishing this, because he cannot. But behind the scenes, that's exactly what he's telling me. Yes, Maureen.
Yeah, hi, my name's Maureen Downey. I'm based in San Francisco, and I'm an investment professional, but also an operator. And my question is, if you've had previous conversations with potential hiring managers and they passed on you, like say 5-6 months ago, but you didn't think the interview went well, is it appropriate to circle back with them, especially when you see that the position hasn't been, filled? And if you do, how's the best way to do that? And then my second question is, if you've had a conversation with the primary hiring manager, maybe not for the exact position that's being hired for now, but you just got in your inbox something from an executive recruiter for a slightly different position, and they know that the hiring manager, how do you handle that so you kind of go back and connect with the hiring manager, but you don't alienate the senior recruiter? So those are two questions to kind of navigate.
Two very different questions. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to get back to topic. But the idea is, can you go back to somebody after you've interviewed with them, and whether it's a week or whether it's 5 or 6 months, and ask for additional things? The answer is yes, you can. So it could be, in fact, I recommend, by the way, if you get turned down from an interview for a job that you're really interested in, a position, it's okay to go back to the company afterwards. And so few people do this, you'll make an impression. You go back after the interview. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for the time. And I know you moved on with somebody else, but I would really appreciate some additional feedback. This is such a great position in such a great organization. What can I do to better prepare myself for a role like this if it comes up again? You may or may not get feedback, but if they're willing to provide it, it's a great way of doing it. Bo, I saw your hand. I'll get to you in a second. Okay, so that's number one. The concern that I have with the recruiter reaching out to you for the same position is that the company may raise an issue. If it is a recruiter from inside the company, that's one thing.
No.
If it is an outside recruiter, number one, make sure that you let them know that you have already interviewed with the company.
I did that.
Okay.
But it's not for the same position. And
It doesn't make any difference. It's
Okay.
more a question of timing. If you are already in the company's system within a period of time, the company may have an issue with trying to pay an outside recruiter for bringing you in when they already have you in their system.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be that situation, but yeah, I just, I have a call scheduled with the recruiter. It's David Barrett. So I don't think, yeah, but thank you for that input.
And I would remind, just ask them whether or not that might be an issue.
Okay.
Remind them that you've talked with them and give them the time frame.
I did already in the email.
Perfect. Then that's all that counts. Okay, Bo.
So I just want to piggyback on what you said, Linda. True story. I'm Bo Smith. I'm in suburban Chicago, western suburbs. My background is in the newspaper business and sales and marketing. And I'm looking for that kind of position in the Chicago area or working in development for a nonprofit. So in my newspaper career, I applied for a job running the trade publication for the National Newspaper Association. I was turned down. However, I followed up afterwards because I was really passionate about the position and let them know that I continued to be very interested, wanted to keep in touch. Well, the person that they tried to hire stepped back, and I ended up getting the job. So true story to back up what Linda's saying.
Right. And I've seen that happen not just in that case, but also by maintaining those relationships and asking for that feedback. I've seen companies reach back out for other positions. If you develop that relationship with that hiring manager or that internal recruiter, I've seen them actually advocate for you for other roles. So few people reach back out after the interview, after they get turned down, to say thank you. Okay, that you will obviously make a difference or make an impression. Yes, Esther.
Yes, I just to piggyback on what Maureen said, I recently, let me introduce myself first. My name is Esther Onohosa, and the reason why I'm not on camera right now is because I don't want to be in the recording. My name is Esther Onohosa. I've been in the IT industry for for a long time. I'm looking for either a project or program manager position in Georgia or remote, nationally. So back to my question, or actually it's more of a comment. I recently went through a 6-round interview process a few weeks back. And it was interesting because I was struggling after the long process, whether I should reach out to the hiring manager and to maybe just connect with him on LinkedIn. I just struggle with it, and because it took me about a week to process the fact that I didn't make it, even though during the 6 interviews, I thought everything went well. In fact, after talking with the hiring manager, by the second interview, he reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, if you have any additional questions, let's hear it. So I just, I thought everything was fine. And then at the end, I didn't get much feedback other than when I asked for it, it was like, no, it's not as much of, I'm paraphrasing now. It wasn't much of anything that you did wrong. It was just that, we're going with someone that is more aligned with what we're looking for at the moment. And I'm thinking, well, it took you 6 rounds of interview to tell me that. But then after that, I started thinking, should I reach out, to the hiring to the internal recruiter and, maybe maintain that connection on LinkedIn?
Sometimes it does. So yes, keep in touch if it's really a role you want. Then the idea of being able to talk about the role, of being able to go back and ask for feedback, and always make it about them if you're doing the follow-up after asking for the feedback, not about you. Gee, I saw this great article. Another reason why I'm really interested. You've probably seen it, or continue to comment on their posts on LinkedIn. That will in itself keep you top of mind. Their name will be there.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. What I want to do now is I want to pivot just slightly. Oh, I'm sorry, Jackie, you've got your hand up.
Really quick question, just only because we were talking about follow-ups. What do you or do you not, if they ask you to take I don't want to say an exam, but an assessment or something? What I actually just did one yesterday. Is there any follow-up to that, or you just wait?
You just wait. I'm honestly not a big fan of a lot of the assessments, especially those that are personality-based. Companies are doing it. When I was in recruiting roles or in any internal role within a company, I refused to put them forward and I worked against them because I think they're baloney. Personal opinion. That's it, just it. Okay. A lot of people like them. A lot of people find them valuable. So if you're one of the people who uses them, please take my own opinion just as my own opinion. But I'm not sure how useful they are in terms of the recruiting process. There is unfortunately no follow-up that you can do for that. other than making sure that it got through. But I would probably just leave it alone.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the tricks and treats that I'm seeing, and I'm piggybacking on what I was using in terms of my cracked crystal ball to talk a little bit about some of the ghosting that we're seeing and some of the scams that are out there. And I don't know about you, but I'm starting to see more and more of them again on both sides. Now, one of the things that's really interesting is that LinkedIn let us know this morning that they have now reached over 1 billion users. That's billion with a B. What they're not talking about quite as much, except through some of the sources that I have, but they haven't fully publicized it, is that last week alone, they removed 500 profiles or more. Not 500, excuse me, 500,000 profiles or more. What they're trying to do is they're trying to be more proactive in terms of identifying and removing some of these spam profiles or the profiles that are using a lot of the bots. There are a lot more out there that need to be removed. And we're going to talk about how you might be able to spot some of them. I don't have the tips for all of them, but I want to talk about some of that. Yes, Michelle.
Just a quick question, just a clarifying question. Was that 1 billion active users? Do you know? Or 1 billion accounts?
1 billion accounts. Now, some of what they're removing now, and this is a great question, some of what they're removing now are the inactive accounts. And you need to make sure that your account remains active. Not just because LinkedIn may remove it, but more importantly, because if I'm doing a search and I'm trying to find a candidate, if I'm not seeing activity on your page, I may not reach out because I'm not sure you're ever going to come back to me.
Can you define and clarify activity? Does that mean I'm posting, commenting, that sort of a thing?
Absolutely. That's exactly what it means. It could also mean that you've updated something on your profile. In fact, I highly recommend that you make a change in your profile in some portion of it at least once a month. Now, that can be that you have a document and you swap the same phrase in and out every month. And it honestly, you can cut it, save it, and then put it right back in. LinkedIn won't know. What it will know is that there was a change in your profile. The reason for doing that is two things. One of which is it gives you the opportunity to play with it and see what happens and to make a little change. But it tells the LinkedIn algorithms, the back end, that you are a real person who is doing this. It also reevaluates from the algorithm standpoint. It's kind of like an upload again. So you come to the top of the pile in terms of their listing. And so it will reevaluate that entire profile and make it, in effect, a newer version. So it brings it top of the mind in the algorithm. Yes, Michelle.
No, I mean, I'm shaking my head because, you know, I used to deal with accounts with my pre-employer. And, you know, it's just a simple date, time stamp on the database.
And honestly, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Okay. But it reevaluates everything that's in that profile. It feeds it back in again to the top of the list.
Yep.
So I highly recommend that you do that. Okay. Yes, Bo.
Linda, piggybacking on what you're talking about, scams and so forth, I've seen a number of young women, often Asian women, want to link with me. They have next to no connections. Al, I don't know if you've seen that, and the other gentlemen, but ladies, I don't know if you're seeing maybe young men in the same way, but after a while, it becomes very obvious that they're scamming.
And that's exactly right. They're scams, they're bots, they're whatever. LinkedIn is not a dating platform. Okay. And a number of us keep going back to LinkedIn and saying that. So what you can do when you get those messages, okay, and they're usually messages or they're connection requests, you can, if it's a connection request, you ignore it. You say you don't know that person. if there is a message that goes along, and if too many people say they don't know, they're ignoring it because they don't know, it dings it for LinkedIn, and it will block that profile from sending out LinkedIn connection requests for a period of time. More importantly, what you can do, and unfortunately, LinkedIn doesn't follow up on this well, but if you're getting those messages, what you do is you report the message. You can report it as spam, you can report it as inappropriate, whatever it is, and then block the profile. Block that person from sending you messages again. One way that you will know that this is a bot or a scam is that, for example, I have blocked Shake somebody or another at least once a week for the last 7 months, reporting that profile every time, and I get another one every time. So there's something behind the scenes. LinkedIn isn't, unfortunately, as good as we'd like when we send those messages of saying, you know, this is inappropriate or this is a scam. I keep getting the messages saying, yes, we've received it, and it does not violate our terms of service or our principles and practices. But if enough people report it, the same way that if enough people raise that issue of this person is trying to connect and I'm ignoring them because I don't know them, it does trigger something internally within LinkedIn to take another look. Yes, Mark.
Good morning. Had a question. I saw on one site where it had listed job postings, and it allowed generally to apply for a job posting, but then to move forward, you had to go and like get through a paywall.
No.
My guessing is that's unnecessary and a bad idea.
That is not only a bad idea, that is scammy. No one should charge you ever to apply for a job. That's a walk, don't run. I mean, a run, don't walk.
Okay.
So that's a good, though, segue into moving into that idea of how do you figure out whether or not it's a scam or a real person. So I want to move to LinkedIn for just a minute. See whether or not I can get there. Oops. Okay, so this is I'm just opening up LinkedIn for the moment. But you know that there are several different things that we can do to take a look at a profile to see whether or not, at least get an idea as to whether or not it's real. So is there somebody here I have not yet connected with who's willing to let me take a quick look at their profile, or somebody I have? Let me take a quick look at profile.
You can look at my profile.
Thank you, Michelle. There we go. Okay. So one of the things that you can do is make sure that the profile is fully completed. You want to make sure that there is a picture that shows up. We'd like there to be some sort of that background picture as well, that banner. Not a necessary, but it is another way of looking at it. But what I want you to do is I want you to go over here to over here where it says more. Click more, and then go down to the bottom where it says about this profile. That tells you when Michelle joined LinkedIn, when she last updated some information. Okay, that's that contact information. And when she updated her profile picture. All of that says at least that this profile has been active. That profile is up to date, and that's a good thing. What you haven't done, Michelle, okay, is, and you could, I can't do you. Okay, let me see whether I can look at it and see. I'm going to go to me just for a second to show you some things that will help you determine whether or not it is a real profile. So one of the things you'll notice on mine, you see this little check kind of thing right here next to my name? It's in the shield. That's what's called a
verified, right?
That's exactly right. I highly recommend that you verify your profile. A bot doesn't do that.
And a bot can't do that?
A bot can do it through a company email kind of thing, we think, although LinkedIn is trying to work against it. But a bot can't do it by uploading a government ID.
Okay. Yeah, there's a couple of methods. I remember reading about it, but
right. There are two methods that you can use to update, okay, your verification. Okay. So I verified mine using what's called Clear, which is uploading a government ID. So you upload a copy of, say, your driver's license front and back. You take a picture at the same time and it matches to make sure that it's real. I'm very uncomfortable about doing a lot of these things. I'm comfortable doing this one. I've done enough research on it that as far as I am concerned, and checking with some of my cybersecurity folks, okay, they're telling me that this is an okay thing to do. Once your information has been verified, it stays in their system that it has been verified, but the information behind it goes away. It will take you less than 5 minutes to do. It can be verified either, okay, with, I didn't want to do that. It can be verified either with your government ID, and that's really a way to do it. And that's the way I would recommend it. It's the easiest way. It's one that you know you can do. And if the profile has been verified, you have some idea that it is a real profile. Okay, so I'd like you to do that. Now, there's something else that a bot can't do, at least not yet. You'll notice that next to my name, there is this bell, okay, or sound bar. So if I come up here into my profile and I click on it.
Hi, this is Linda Brubaker. I'm your job search coach, helping you find your next forever job.
LinkedIn calls it name pronunciation. You can only access that feature in terms of the recording from a mobile device. I can listen to it anywhere, but you can only upload it from your phone. A bot has not yet been able to, as far as we know, upload that information. Now you can do it, you've got, I think it's less than 30 seconds. But you can upload just the pronunciation of your name. If your name is really Albert, but you want to be called Bo, say that. Okay, unless your profile also says Bo. But you can put in not just saying your name, you can say a quick word or two about who you are. If you see that sound button on a profile, it is an indication, at least at this point, that this is person, not bot. Doesn't mean it couldn't be a fake profile, but at least it is probably not a bot. So those are two clues. One is the verification. The second is that name pronunciation that's been enabled. It's a very easy thing that you can do. I would also double check to see when the profile has been updated. Check and make sure that all of the information is there. And then I would take a look at the number of connections that somebody has. Now, we all know that everybody has to start somewhere. But look to see who else is out there. And if they have very few connections, don't just accept it. Make sure that there is some sort of connection message that goes along with it. And if there isn't, and you're concerned, okay, especially unless it's somebody that you know from groups like this. But if it's somebody just reaching out that you have no idea who they are or why they're reaching out to you, send them a message first asking why they're trying to connect and how they know you. A bot is very unlikely to be able to reply to that. Yes, Jackie.
Because you just said this, is the verification badge, and is that like something that recruiters or they look for it, or it's just something to prove that you're not a bot?
So yes, on LinkedIn Recruiter, I can search for verified profiles. I can use that as one of the criteria.
Okay.
Okay.
So it is something that they, like a tool being used.
It is absolutely a tool. It is also a tool that even if they're not, most recruiters are not paying for LinkedIn Recruiter. Okay. It is a very expensive tool. It gives you lots of options, but it's a very expensive tool. And even when I was either an internal recruiter or working for an agency, I never used a tool like that. It wasn't available in terms of cost. But I can still, when I look at the profiles, when I pull them up, I can still eliminate those that don't have that verification. I highly recommend doing it. Now, I also, and I'm going to talk about this probably in a week or two after I figure out how to do it myself and why to do it, but I'm seeing a lot of pushing to use a two-step verification process for your own LinkedIn account. Some LinkedIn accounts are getting hacked. Some aren't real. I don't know why anybody would want to hack a LinkedIn account, what benefit they might have. But I would say after I do a little more research, we'll talk about whether or not that might be useful.
I mean, I think it's just more of credential stuffing, Linda, where it's the black dark world out there gets your credentials, and they're going to
I think
try
that's exactly what it is.
any website to leverage it.
I agree with you. Okay. Oh, by the way, one more reason to make a change on your LinkedIn profile. It's not just that it changes things in terms of the internal algorithms. So if you do it once a week, but it also, believe it or not, triggers Google search so that you pop up higher in some of those search results too. Okay. Anything we can do will help. So those are two ways that you can look at it. Then I would suggest that you take a look. Now, if you've got a concern about a profile, one of the things you want to do is you want to check to make sure, let's say that this is, and I don't know of any offhand, a recruiter of some sort or somebody who says that they're reaching out for a job. Double check to make sure from their own profile that it really looks like it's legitimate, and you all trust your own gut. But go to the company page on LinkedIn. See whether or not that employee is listed as associating themselves with that company. If you're not, that's another red flag. Now, in terms of jobs themselves, I want to create a job alert. Okay. There are a couple things that you should watch out for here as well. One of the things that we're seeing is a lot of ghosting in terms of jobs, and we're seeing a lot of scam jobs out there again. And not just scam jobs, but we're seeing a lot of jobs, especially as we get to the year end. And I wish I could say it'll go away at the beginning of the year, but it won't. We're seeing a lot of jobs being posted because companies want to show their investors that they're growing. So if you see the same job posted over and over and over again, and it's exactly the same job, raise a little bit of a red flag. Now, it's true that sometimes I'm posting it because it's just a 30-day job. That's all I'm paying for. So I need to repost it if I'm not getting enough. But if you keep seeing it month after month after month, that may be your clue that that may not be a real job. You may want to also then go to the company website. Check to see on the company's website, not on LinkedIn, but you find a job that you're interested in, whether it's on LinkedIn or Indeed or anywhere else. Go to the company's website directly. See whether you can find that job there. If you can't, that's another red flag. Now, it's important to go to the company's website, not just to see whether or not it's a real job. And here's a slight deviation, is that I also would recommend highly that instead of applying directly through LinkedIn, you apply directly through the company's website. For a couple of reasons. Number one, you make sure that it is a real job, that they are actively recruiting for it. Number two, one of the things that we have recently discovered is that there is a time delay between the time you apply for a job on LinkedIn or on Indeed and the time your resume actually makes it to the company. It can take anywhere from a day to 10 days for that transfer to take place. Don't wait. There's absolutely no advantage to applying directly through LinkedIn. When you apply, I can't tell that that's the way that you applied. I'm looking at all the resumes. They still have to be transferred to my system. And that's where I'll see them. The only advantage of looking at, definitely look at all the jobs here because this is where you're going to find most of them. But if you're looking and there is the name of a recruiter here as an example, let's see if I can find one. And because I'm looking right now, I'm not going to find it right. In any event, if there happens to be the name of a recruiter here, then you know somebody you can reach out to. But if not, there is absolutely no advantage. Do not, and I will say this in many cases, please don't do this. Don't use the easy apply. It is not to your advantage. Okay, so here's one that says meet the hiring team. That's what I was looking for. If you've got that directly, then you have at least the name of the person that you can reach out to connect, that you can follow up with in terms of messaging because he says he's open to messaging. You have the name of the person that you can talk to and address all your information to. But still apply through the company website, not through LinkedIn. Unless they specifically say apply here. And apply in the narrative, not by just saying easy apply. Yes, Michelle.
I've heard that don't apply through easy apply many times and I don't do it, but could you help me understand why that is?
Yeah. With Easy Apply, in most cases, what it is it gives you the opportunity, oh, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. It gives you the opportunity to basically share your LinkedIn profile. It may give you the opportunity to share a resume that's already on file. You don't get the opportunity to really customize anything. You normally don't get the opportunity to attach a cover letter or any other materials. And even if you're doing Easy Apply, if they want to talk with you, they're still going to say, okay, now you have to actually apply through our system. It is a waste of time for you. And it is actually a waste of time for the recruiters. LinkedIn is pushing it because it is another way they make money by doing that. So I would highly recommend that you not use Easy Apply. You want to be able to customize a resume, customize all of your materials for the job for which you're applying. The other thing is, okay. And the other thing, Michelle, is that since we know that even with Easy Apply, it doesn't get to the recruiter any faster than it would be if you're going through their system. Just go through their system and save you the step.
I think the only benefit is just it gets it done maybe a little faster, because I will tell you, applying for multiple of these jobs, it can be so cumbersome depending on the system that they're using.
It can be, but if you're applying for the jobs, even through Easy Apply, Michelle, if you're actually going to be considered for the job, you're still going to have to reapply through their system.
Yeah. But in some ways, I see that as a more serious, qualified employer. Like, don't make me apply for something that I may not get.
Ah, okay. So I understand that. But let me ask you, what's your success rate been with the Easy Applies?
Well, I don't do it. I think when I started doing this job search, and now, mind you, I've been job searching since probably August. I started doing it until people told me not to, and then I stopped. So I can't even gauge to answer the question, honestly. But I do know that I've applied to a lot of places, and depending on the system that they have, even ingesting the resume, it gets screwed up and I have to redo it. And it's just a long process.
It is absolutely a long process. So if we're talking job search trick or treat again, applying like that is both a trick and a treat. So here's some hidden information. Yes, I want you to upload your resume. Absolutely. If some of your information isn't being fed in properly, that may be an indication that the system cannot completely read it. It may not. It just may be their own system that wants you to retype everything. But those systems will also allow you to attach a resume as well as to upload it. When you do that, the one my human eyes are going to read is the one you've uploaded. I mean, the one you've attached, excuse me. So if you attach a copy, the one my human eyes are going to take a look at will be the attachment, which is formatted however it is you want to format it. So in terms of the information that you're adding into the system, yes, you may have to manually enter some information directly into their boxes. But if the resume that you've uploaded isn't exactly in the format that you want and it's a little bit off, because I am obsessive enough, I would probably go ahead and make it look pretty. But if all the information is there and the formatting isn't quite right, and I know that I have attached a copy, and you're really pressed for time, I wouldn't worry about it.
Thank you for those tips, by the way.
Absolutely. It's one of the advantages I have of being on both sides of the desk, is that I've used so many of those applicant tracking systems. I've looked at it both as a hiring manager, as a recruiter, and as the coach, that I can give you some of the tips that other people may not.
Excuse
Okay.
me, Linda.
Yes.
This is Tara. Hang on. I'm hearing an echo.
Yeah. Can
But
everybody else?
I'll just type the message.
No, don't. I'm just going to. Tara, do you have just one
Yes.
system with your? Okay. I'm going to go in and just mute everybody. And then you can unmute. But if everybody would please mute. Sure, I can do that. Yep. Okay. I'm muting all people, so that way now you can unmute when you're ready. And we should eliminate the echo. So try again, Tara.
Okay. So talking about the ATS system.
Don't. Okay. You have two sound systems on. So you have your phone as well as the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. You need to mute the sound on one.
Yeah. They
Okay.
both.
I would use the mute the sound on the screen and just talk through the phone.
Let's try this one.
There you go.
Oh, that's better. Okay. Okay. So talking about the applicant tracking system, say, so you upload your information, maybe it doesn't come through properly. You've attached your resume, but if the system automatically kicks it out, if it's not formatted properly, then would the resume still, I mean, wouldn't the whole thing get booted out?
So that's a myth about applicant tracking systems. The resume has to be read, but think about an applicant tracking system as an electronic file cabinet. I have to be able to read it. So when you hear people talk about making sure that your resume is ATS compliant, what it means is it has to be readable by the machine. The machine is only going to kick it out if it cannot completely get that information. The way that applicant tracking systems work, and everyone that I've ever used, is that it needs to be able to read the information, but if you're putting it into that application itself, that will also feed it into the right spots. The problem is that if the ATS cannot read your resume, you lose out in terms of the ability of the system. If I put in as a recruiter that I'm looking for somebody who has X, Y, and Z, and I cannot read your resume, then I can't find you in that system. That's the reason to making sure that it's applicant tracking system compliant.
Okay.
The system itself will not kick you out unless I put in criteria that says, I don't want anybody who's this. Now, if as part of the application process, there are some questions that you have to answer, those may be knockouts. And the system may be automatically programmed that if you don't answer this question in this way, then the resume will stay in the system, stays in that file cabinet, but it will not be forwarded to me as something to consider.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I was not aware of that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. And we may do a whole thing about, or I'm going to do a post about applicant tracking systems at some point. But the whole idea is that, yes, your resume has to be applicant tracking system compliant. It has to be readable. But you also want to make sure, above and beyond anything else, that your resume is formatted for the human eye, what I call the dummy on my side of the desk or the screen. Plain, simple, dull, boring, straightforward. Easy for me to read and find. Now, in terms of applicant tracking systems, many of them don't read text boxes. Many of them don't read tables. Color does you no good. Okay. Applicant tracking system can probably read it, but it does you no good. No advantage. No graphics, no tables, no columns. Okay. Other questions in terms of the scams that are out there. So a lot of strange, okay, postings that aren't real, and we know that. We also know that you need to trust yourself. If something looks too good to be true, it is usually too good to be true. Mark asked earlier about having to pay, going through a paywall to apply for a job. That is a scam. Walk away. If a job says no experience necessary and we're paying you $60 an hour, that doesn't quite sit right. That doesn't look right. So do some double checking, trust your gut. If you're at all concerned about whether or not it may or may not be real, I can't always tell, but I've been doing this long enough that if you send it to me and say, what do you think about this? Is this real? I can usually take a look and give you some advice. And I'm happy to do that. Mark, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is a scam, but LinkedIn Premium, I mean, it's kind of pricey. Is that worth the extra money?
My personal view is probably not. LinkedIn Premium, the cheapest LinkedIn Premium account right now is $40 a month. So here are the reasons to use LinkedIn Premium. With LinkedIn Premium, you get access to LinkedIn Learning. If you're going to be using LinkedIn Learning, it may make some sense. However, you can also do a free month of LinkedIn, okay? Set your calendar alert for 29 days and cancel the account, okay, and go back to the regular. But in that 29 days, take all the LinkedIn Learning classes you can and add them to your profile. There are other ways, however, that you can take some of those LinkedIn Learning classes for free. Check your local public library. Many local libraries are offering LinkedIn Learning to people who hold a library card with their system. They may not all, and you have to go through some additional work to get it posted on your profile, but it's another way of taking that information and taking those classes. The other reason for using LinkedIn Premium, there are two things that you can do with LinkedIn Premium that you cannot do with anything else. With LinkedIn Premium, you can see the people who are actually looking at your profile. With a free account, you can see 5 names at a time. And that doesn't mean that I go in today and see 5, and then 5 minutes later I go in and see 5 more. It doesn't work that way. It's whenever LinkedIn makes that change. But you can only see 5. Now, with a premium account, you can see more. That only makes a difference if you are either going to follow up with them and say, hey, I noticed you looked at my profile. Can I help you? Right? Which sounds a little weird. Okay. As a recruiter, I used to do that on occasion. I saw you looked at my profile. How can I help? But otherwise, if you're not going to reach out to them, it doesn't do you much good. If you want to know specifically whether somebody from the company has looked at your profile, then maybe. But again, unless you're reaching back out, it doesn't do you any good to just know that they looked. Sometimes it's more frustrating than useful. Hey, somebody looked at me. Why aren't they calling? Okay, so you have to tell whether or not that works. The other thing that you can do with a premium account that you cannot do with a free account, actually 2 more things. One is that you can send in messages. Now with an in message, which is a part of a premium account only, you can message X number of people a week or a month. It's kind of on a rolling basis, even if you're not connected to them. With a free account, you can only message first level connections. You can respond to anybody who has sent a message to you, but you can only initiate a message to someone who is a first level connection. Another reason, guys, to connect with people. Okay. There are ways around it. One way around it is, instead of sending a message, if the message won't go through, is that you can send a connection request and include a brief message with it. Because you can send a connection request to anyone.
Also, if you are in the same group with the person, you can send it. So if you're in a publishing group or something to that effect, you may have a way of getting in touch with them through that.
Absolutely. And that's another great tool. Thank you, Laura. Is that I highly recommend that you join relevant groups. And we can do some searching at some point about how to find those groups that might be appropriate. But there are so many groups on LinkedIn that are out there, and you can share information, you can ask advice. Sometimes as a recruiter, I would post a job directly in one of those groups because I can do that for free. And I know that everybody in that group either is someone who might be interested or could know somebody who would be. It's a great way of networking with people who are like-minded or might be able to assist you in those areas as well. So groups are great. Thank you for pointing that out, Laura. Yes, Jackie.
Oh, I just wanted to share about the scams and something I noticed, especially as I became more active on LinkedIn in the beginning or every once in a while. I started getting, and I don't know if it was from LinkedIn or a site that I applied to a job, but then these spammy emails, and they look like they come actually from, most of the time the names sound of Indian descent, like from India, saying they have a job for you and like the pay is great. And I was getting them a lot at one period. They seemed to like settle down a little bit, but even my mom got one because she was like, oh, I got an email about a job that you should look for. But that was something that was happening a lot. And I don't know if this is also a scam or not, but I somehow I'm on this list of, it's called Ivy Business Executives, and they want to pay you for research. And I went through like the process of answering questions, and they were like, oh, well, you don't qualify or what we need. And I still get these emails all the time, but they're definitely, both of them, I think, related with LinkedIn activity, because I never got them before and they're like targeting me.
So there are a couple things. One of which is, yes, there are a lot of those scam messages that you're going to get. It is unusual for you to get scam emails unless you have that setting open on your profile that allows people to download your email address. And you can change that. Okay. You want your connections to be able to do it. Let me go back to LinkedIn for a minute. So I have to do this. So I'm going back to me, and I want to go to settings and privacy. And let's see. Although I went in last night and they had changed some things, so I'm still trying to find some of this. I was unhappy. Okay. Well, let's go over here to visibility. I think that's where it is. Who can see or download your email address? So I'm in settings and privacy, settings and privacy, visibility. Who can see or download your email address? Okay. So people can download my email address. I've made it anyone on LinkedIn, but I am not allowing them to export that to a list. So anybody can find my email address because I've listed it in my contact information, but they cannot go in and do a mass. I'm pulling all those email addresses and pulling them into a database to send you those emails. They have to do it one by one. So recommend, do not allow them to export your email address. If that isn't changed, make sure you do that. And you can make your connections, your email address. If you're in job search, don't make your email address visible only to you. That doesn't do much good. You can make it your first and second degree connections, but a lot of the recruiters who are out there who may want to get in touch with you, okay, may not be connected to you yet. So you get the choice. Now, the other thing that you can do, though, is recognize that people can message you instead, and that doesn't require it. Jackie, the other thing you can do is just go in and unsubscribe from all of those. Although you have to be careful with that. Okay. So we've got some of the tricks and tips, okay? We talked a little bit about scams. We talked a little bit about some of those fake profiles and how to get around them. Other questions in terms of the tricks, the scams, before I talk real quickly about ghosting. All righty then. Ghosting ties into trick or treat because I couldn't help myself. Okay. I do that every once in a while, Eric. You'll see that. Okay. What you see is what you get. This is me. Personality, like it or leave it, it's there. Okay. But ghosting was another thing that we are seeing a lot. And it is increasing, and it is rude, and it is unnecessary, but I don't see it going away. So ghosting happens on a lot of different levels. Ghosting may mean that you apply for a job and you never hear back. It could be that you'll get the automatic message simply saying, we've received your resume, and if we're interested, we're going to reach back out. To me, that's not a ghost. That's actually an acknowledgement that you got it. You may never hear again, but at least it's there. The other thing is that you get ghosting when you've applied for a job and you don't hear anything, or you've had an interview, or many times you've been contacted by an outside recruiter who says, we think you might be a good fit. Let's talk about it. And then nothing ever goes anywhere. Right? Bothers the heck out of me. Okay. But it happens. And there's a lot of speculation from the recruiting firms. Well, we do that because we're so busy, we don't have the time. Right? You know, it takes personal prejudice. It takes limited time to be able to send out an email. You've already got it written, just click. You can do it. Take you 10, 15 minutes at the end of the day to do it. And people know. Yeah. Thanks, this isn't the right opportunity at this time. We'll get back to you when we do. Appreciate your conversation. It's nice to be able to know rather than just being sitting in that black hole. We also see it, though, from a company standpoint. I wish that was going to go away, and it's not. There's a lot of us who are encouraging companies, even if they're just putting together automated emails that they can send out saying, you know, thank you, we've now filled the position. We'll keep you on file for the next time. So that you at least know that the role is closed, it's gone. That's important because I've had a number of people who apply for a job now, and 6 months later, they get a call for an interview. It's like, wait, huh? Right? Position gets put on hold, or something happened, or I'm reaching out again, there's a new position, but you don't know where it really came from. Having that feedback even if it's, we're putting the position on hold for now, okay? Something. When the ghosting happens, unfortunately, there is very little you can do. Now, you can try following up. And we will at some point talk about how to follow up and why to follow up and what kinds of things to say. And answer some questions about those. But otherwise, it's kind of that limbo. And I hate it. So my request for you is don't be a ghoster yourself. If somebody reaches out to you, even if you're saying, I'm not interested, respond. Don't just not show up for something. And I actually had 3 people do that to me last week. It seems to be growing. I know we're all busy. I'm not making excuses for recruiters or anyone else who doesn't reach back out. But from your standpoint, make sure that you're following through. And if somebody did ghost you, they said they were going to call, they had an appointment set up and they didn't show up, reach back out and say, I realize that things came up and I'm sorry that the appointment didn't work out at this time. I'm available on such and such a date. Does this work for you? If not, let me know and let's set something up. The proactive approach, not why didn't you call? You said we were going to have an interview and it didn't happen. What's going on? Always make the assumption that it was an error on their part, not that it was deliberate. But unfortunately, the ghosting that we're seeing is continuing, and it is continuing to grow from both a company and from an outside recruiter standpoint. More from the outside recruiters, those people who are contacting you for jobs because of your LinkedIn profile. Questions about that? Okay. Other questions I can answer for you all? So what I'm going to do is again, make sure that your LinkedIn URL is in the chat. Make sure that you connect with me. See if I can find it again. Join our private group. Okay. Now, because it's a private group, you can't just find it on LinkedIn. You have to either use the link that I put into the chat to request it. Some of you got the link when I remembered to do it in the registration for the meeting. If not, I will go back through and send everybody, if you've connected with me, an invitation to the group, but I can only invite you if you are a first level connection. You can request it if we are not connected. I will automatically approve you if you are on that registration list or if you join the meeting. But feel free to network in that group. I will post the video. I will be better about it. I think last week I ended up posting 3 weeks in a row. But I'm going to be posting all of these by Monday, hopefully earlier than that. In fact, I'll try and do it this afternoon. Okay. Now, when I post them, they're raw video. I'm not editing them. But I will post it, and I will post the chat as well. And what you should know, though, is that if I post the chat, the links that we just added are not active in the chat. when I post it, because it gets posted as a PDF. Which means you're going to have to copy it and paste it into something else rather than just clicking. Okay. Do you all know how to download the chat yourselves if you want to? Okay. Nope. Okay. So at the bottom of the chat, you will see a variety of different things, one of which is where it says writing your own message, type your message here. Underneath that, you will see something that looks like a piece of paper. If you click on that, okay, that says you can download it for where you want it to go, or next to it, 3 dots. And at the top of that, it says Save Chat. It will normally save it to your notepad, and then you can put it wherever you want it to be. Okay. Good. So did this format work for you? I'm going to stop the recording, actually.